Reborn before the college entrance exams, this time it's his turn to be disabled. Lin Xiaoman, you're just a cripple, how dare you compare yourself to Yuan. The moment before the car crash, my husband's cold sneer still echoed in my ears. When I opened my eyes again, I had actually been reborn back to my senior year of high school. That rainy day when delivering a love letter for him ruined my entire life. In this life, I publicly tore apart the love letter he wrote to the school beauty, Lu Mingchuan. We're done, I died. That was the first thought upon regaining consciousness. In my ears rang the screeching siren of an ambulance. Before me was the twisted, deformed roof of a car, and warm liquid trickling from my forehead, blurring my vision. Lin Xiaoman, you really are a ghost that won't leave me alone. Lu Mingchuan's voice came from the driver's seat, laced with familiar disgust. Even when you're getting a divorce, you still have to cause me trouble. I wanted to argue, but couldn't make a sound. My body felt crushed under an immense weight, unable to move. The sound of rain, car horns, and the shocked cries of passers-by gradually faded into the distance. If you hadn't meddled by delivering that love letter years ago and gotten into that accident, why would I have been forced to marry a cripple like you? Do you have any idea how much I've been mocked by my friends all these years? His voice grew fainter. Now it's finally over, you're dead, and I can openly be with Yuan. To tell you the truth, we've already gotten married abroad. Darkness swallowed consciousness. I thought this was the end, but when I opened my eyes again, sunlight was streaming through the classroom window, casting mottled shadows on the desk. I blinked, my vision focusing on the math test spread out before me, a senior high school mock exam. Xiaoman, please help me. A pink note folded into the shape of a heart was pushed toward me, accompanied by a familiar voice. You must make sure to give this to Su Yuan today. I suddenly looked up and saw the face I thought I'd never want to see again, the 18-year-old Lu Mingchuan, my childhood sweetheart, and the one who ruined my life in my past life. He was looking at me with that ingratiating smile I couldn't refuse, just like he had every time in the past decade whenever he asked me for help. Me. The voice caught in the throat, fingers trembling uncontrollably. What's the matter? He tilted his head, his face glowing with youthful energy in the sunlight. It's just delivering a love letter. Not the first time. I'll treat you to a drink tomorrow. Memories flooded back like a tide. It was this love letter, this very day, in my past life. I helped him deliver a love letter, and on the way back, I was involved in a car accident that resulted in the amputation of my right leg, causing me to miss the college entrance exam and lose the chance to become a doctor. The Lu family, filled with guilt, forced Lu Mingchuan to marry me, but it ruined both of our lives. Xiaoman, what are you staring at? Lu Mingchuan waved his hand in front of my eyes. School's almost over, you should go over there soon. The math teacher stood at the podium, explaining the final major problem, while the classroom was filled with the stuffy heat of early summer and the tension before the college entrance exam. Looking around, every face was both familiar and unfamiliar. This was my senior year classroom, and I had somehow returned to 10 years ago. No, I heard my voice say, unnervingly calm, you go deliver it yourself. Lu Mingchuan was stunned, clearly not expecting me to refuse. Stop joking, our homeroom teacher is so strict. If we get caught, I'm done for. You're top of the class, the teachers like you, and you'd be fine even if you got caught. I picked up that love letter and tore it in half under his expectant gaze, then into quarters, before crumpling it into a ball and tossing it into the trash bin at the back of the classroom. Lin Xiaoman, have you lost your mind? Lu Mingchuan's face darkened dramatically, his voice drawing sidelong glances from nearby classmates. I'm perfectly sober, staring straight into his eyes. The pent-up anger and grievances from my past life surged in my chest. I remembered how he repeatedly mocked me as a cripple in front of his friends, how he kept abandoning me to go abroad in search of his first love, even getting married overseas, and how he constantly insulted my parents and loved ones. Lu Mingchuan, from today onward, we're done, handle your own messes. The bell rang just in time, and I quickly packed my bag, ignoring his shocked expression, and dashed out of the classroom without looking back. The sunlight felt warm and real on my face as I took a deep breath, savoring the healthy, powerful strides of my legs. This wasn't a dream, I had truly been reborn, returned to the day that would change my fate this time. I won't repeat the same mistakes. The moment I pushed open the front door, my eyes instantly welled up with tears. Xiaoman's back. Mom peeked out from the kitchen, her face still free of the wrinkles that would later form from worrying about me. Dinner's almost ready, go wash your hands first. I stood rooted to the spot, greedily taking in the sight of this familiar yet strange home. The calendar on the living room wall showed March 12, 2015, Mom's favorite pale blue curtains swayed gently in the breeze, and a plate of fresh fruit sat on the dining table, every detail so vividly alive. In my previous life, after my amputation, my parents had nearly bankrupted themselves to pay for my treatment. Mom's hair turned white overnight, and Dad's back became hunched, but now, here they stood before me, healthy and whole, as if heaven had granted me a chance to start over. What's wrong? Standing there in a daze, Mom wiped her hands and walked over, reaching out to touch my forehead. Not feeling well, I hugged her tightly, burying my face in her shoulder, breathing in the familiar mix of faint cooking oil and laundry detergent. Nothing. I just missed you guys, silly child. You just left this morning and already miss me. Mom patted my back with a laugh and said, "Go wash your hands. I made your favorite sweet and sour ribs today." At dinner, I practically wolfed down every dish my mom had prepared, even surprising my dad with my appetite. After the meal, I took the initiative to clear the table, then announced, under my parents' astonished gazes, "Starting today, I'm going all out to prepare for the college entrance exams, so I might not have as much time for household chores." Did he finally have an epiphany? Dad chuckled, adjusting his glasses. "All right, your mom and I will handle the chores. You just focus on studying." Back in my room, I locked the door, threw myself onto the bed, buried my face in the pillow, and silently screamed a few times before calming down. I really had been reborn. I'd returned to the most crucial month before the college entrance exams. I sat up and pulled out all my textbooks and notes from my backpack, covering the entire desk. Since fate has given me a second chance, I must seize this opportunity to get into the capital medical university I've always dreamed of and become a doctor. Opening my math notebook, I froze. The formulas and problem-solving methods I once knew by heart now seemed somewhat unfamiliar. I then flipped through my physics and chemistry textbooks. The situation was even worse. Years of a miserable married life and the self-doubt brought on by my disability had caused me to forget most of my high school knowledge over time. No way. Cold sweat broke out on my forehead, and my fingers trembled slightly. Rebirth gave me a healthy body and a second chance, but it didn't return the knowledge I once had. With less than 3 months until the college entrance exam, I took a deep breath, pulled out a brand new notebook, and began making a study plan. In my previous life, I missed the college entrance exam due to a car accident, and later I could only attend an ordinary university through self-study exams, studying a major I didn't even like. This time, I must get the best grades and get into the top medical school. At 2 in the morning, I finally completed the detailed study schedule, down to every hour of each day. My eyelids felt as heavy as lead, but I forced myself to open the math textbook and started reviewing from the most basic trigonometric functions. "Xiaoman, why aren't you asleep yet?" Mom gently knocked on my door. "Going to bed right now," I replied, but still insisted on finishing the problem at hand before turning off the desk lamp. Lying in bed, I recalled what had happened at school today. Lu Mingchuan's shocked expression flashed before my eyes, and a faint sense of revenge stirred in my heart. In my previous life, I always did whatever he asked, even ruining my entire life to deliver a love letter for him. Yet after marriage, he vented all his resentment on me. This time, "I won't have anything to do with you anymore," I whispered into the darkness, then fell into a deep sleep. Early the next morning, I arrived at the classroom half an hour earlier than usual. Morning sunlight streamed through the windows, illuminating the empty desks. I took out my English vocabulary book and began to memorize. Students arrived one after another, all showing surprised expressions when they saw me at school so early. When Lu Mingchuan walked in, I didn't even look up, completely focused on solving physics problems. "Xiaoman," he stood in front of my desk, his voice clearly displeased. "About yesterday, aren't you going to explain?" I kept writing formulas without even glancing at him. "There's nothing to explain. What's wrong with you?" He pressed down on my notebook. "Haven't we always been like this? You deliver things for me, and I treat you to ice cream." I looked up at him, and the face that once made my heart race now only filled me with disgust. That was then. Now I'm preparing for the college entrance exam. I don't have time to play these boring games with you. "College entrance exam," he scoffed. "With your grades, you could easily get into a top-tier university even if you just wing it. What's there to be nervous about?" I yanked the notebook back. "My business is none of your concern." Lu Mingchuan's face darkened, and he was about to say something when the homeroom teacher, Mr. Li, walked into the classroom. He had no choice but to sulkily returned to his seat in class that morning, I could feel Lu Mingchuan glancing back at me repeatedly, but I never met his gaze. During the break, I seized the time to review, even holding off on going to the restroom, afraid of missing a single second. The school bell rang, and I quickly packed my bag to leave. Lu Mingchuan suddenly rushed over and blocked my way. "Let's walk together." "No thanks, I'm going to the library," I said, stepping aside to get past him. He grabbed my wrist. "What's wrong with you? Why are you suddenly so cold to me? Aren't we best friends?" I shook off his hand, raising my voice slightly. "I told you, I need to study, please don't disturb me." The classmates still in the classroom turned to look, and whispers began to spread. Lu Mingchuan's face flushed red, a flash of anger in his eyes. "Lin Xiaoman, have you lost your mind? Think whatever you want." I slung my backpack over my shoulder and strode out of the classroom, my heart pounding wildly in my chest. In my past life, I had always been overly cautious around him, afraid of upsetting him, but now, I could finally say no with a clear conscience. The library was so quiet you could hear the sound of pages turning. I found a corner seat, spread out my books, and began studying, but before long, a figure sat down across from me. Thinking it was Lu Mingchuan coming to pester me again, I looked up impatiently. "Chen Mo." I stared in surprise at the boy in front of me. He was our class's academic monitor, a top student whose ranking had never fallen below the top 3 in our grade. Usually quiet and reserved, he hardly interacted with anyone. He pushed his black-rimmed glasses and handed me a notebook with a straight face. "Teacher Li asked me to give this to you." I took it doubtfully, opened it, and found neatly written biology notes covering all the key points for the college entrance exam, even including supplementary knowledge. My notes," Chen Mo said briefly. "Teacher Li said you want to apply for medical school." I stared at him in shock. How did Teacher Li know? I had just filled out this volunteer on my career planning form this morning. Chen Mo shrugged and already lowered his head to work on his own exercises. Clearly not intending to continue the conversation, I carefully flipped through the notes, which were more systematic and easier to understand than the textbook, with key points and difficult concepts marked in different colors. Thank you, and please thank Teacher Li for me." Chen Mo nodded without saying another word. We stayed quietly, each absorbed in our studies, until the library's closing bell rang. In the following days, Lu Mingchuan tried various ways to get my attention, leaving my favorite milk tea on my desk, though I had long since stopped liking that flavor, deliberately laughing loudly with classmates on my usual route after school, and even having mutual friends ask me about the reason for my sudden change of heart. I ignored all of it completely, throwing myself entirely into my studies. During the day, I listened carefully in every class, chased after teachers during breaks to ask questions, and headed straight to the library after school. At night, after returning home, I would review my lessons until late into the night, pinching my thigh when I felt drowsy. On Friday's biology class, the teacher announced a small quiz next week. After class, I saw Chen Mo organizing his notes, and I mustered the courage to approach him. "Chen Mo, could I borrow your biology notes?" Just for the scope of next week's quiz. My voice grew quieter as I spoke. In my previous life, I never asked for help with studies, but things were different now. He glanced up at me, took a folder out of his backpack, and handed it to me. "The latest is in here, thank you. I'll definitely return it to you on Monday." I accepted it as if I had found a treasure. "Take your time." He paused. "There's something wrong with your review method." I was stunned. "What problem? You're rushing too much." Chen Mo's voice was calm. "The college entrance exam isn't something you can achieve overnight. You're staying up late like this, and your efficiency is actually lower." My face suddenly flushed. How could he know I was staying up late? Were my dark circles really that obvious? I just have a lot of things to catch up on," I said in a low voice. Chen Mo looked at me for a moment, then suddenly said, "Saturday morning at 8 o'clock, 3rd floor of the city library. I've organized the key points for each subject." I looked up in surprise, hardly believing my ears. Was Chen Mo asking me to study together? "Come or not, it's up to you." He had already turned and walked away, leaving me standing there, clutching that biology notebook tightly in my hands, my heart inexplicably racing. Heaven must be helping me. After school, as expected, Lu Mingchuan was waiting for me at the school gate again. This time I pretended not to see him and walked straight to the bus stop. "Lin Xiaoman," he caught up and stopped me. "What's going on with you? You've been like a completely different person this whole week." "I've said it many times, I want to study." I tried to get past him, cut the act, he raised his voice. Have you fallen for someone else? It's Chin Mo, isn't it? You've been hanging around him all the time these past few days. I stopped in my tracks and turned to face him squarely. Lu Mingchuan, we're not in a relationship, and I have no obligation to explain my actions to you. Who I choose to associate with is my freedom. His expression was as if he had been slapped. We grew up together, and this is how you treat me. Exactly, because I've known you for so long. I know what kind of person you are, I said calmly. Please don't disturb my studies anymore. After saying that, I turned and boarded the bus that had just arrived, leaving Lu Mingchuan standing in place, completely stunned. Through the window, I saw his expression shift from shock to anger, and finally to a kind of bewilderment I had never seen on his face before. In my previous life, I would have been anxious over any of his emotional fluctuations, but now, I only felt a sense of relief. The bus pulled away from the stop, and I took a deep breath, opening Chin Mo's notes, quickly immersing myself in the ocean of knowledge. This time, I won't give up my future for anyone. At 7:40 on Saturday morning, I stood in front of the city library, my fingers nervously twisting the strap of my backpack. I was 20 minutes early, but I hardly slept last night, my mind filled with formulas and theorems. The large clock in front of the library pointed to 7:50 when I spotted a familiar figure stepping off the bus. Chin Mo was dressed in a simple white t-shirt and jeans, his skin appearing especially fair under the sunlight, and his eyes behind black-framed glasses widened slightly upon seeing me. Morning, he greeted briefly as he approached me. Gee, good morning, I stammered inexplicably. I just happened to come early since it was on my way. Chin Mo nodded without exposing my lie. His home and mine were in completely opposite directions. The air conditioning in the library was turned up high. I followed Chin Mo up to the third floor and sat down at a corner table by the window. He pulled out a thick stack of neatly bound papers from his backpack and slid them toward me. This is a compilation of key points and common question types for all subjects in the college entrance exam, he said in a low voice, as if afraid of disturbing other readers. Take a look first, and ask me if you have any questions. I opened the first page, which was densely yet neatly covered with concise summaries of all the key math concepts. Important formulas were highlighted in red, common pitfalls marked with yellow highlighter, and small handwritten notes in pencil filled the margins. This was far better than any commercial review guide on the market. This is incredibly detailed. I looked up and sincerely marveled. How long did it take you to organize all this? Chin Mo lowered his head to flip through his book, but the tips of his ears turned slightly red. Not long. For the next 3 hours, we immersed ourselves in our respective studies. Occasionally, when I encountered something I didn't understand, I would lightly tap that point with my finger, and Chin Mo would pause his writing to explain in detail in a voice only the two of us could hear, until I fully grasped it. By noon, my stomach betrayed me with a growl. Chin Mo glanced up at me, then pulled out 2 rice balls and a bottle of mineral water from his backpack. Here, eat this. He pushed a rice ball toward me. From the cafeteria. Tastes average, but it'll fill your stomach. I was stunned. You had this ready? Yeah. Chin Mo had already unwrapped it and taken a bite. I figured you'd be hungry. Holding the warm rice ball in my hand, a wave of warmth surged through my heart. In my previous life, I barely remembered Chin Mo, just that he was a top student who kept to himself. Now, it seemed that beneath his cold exterior lay an unexpectedly thoughtful nature. Thank you, I whispered, taking a bite of the rice ball as the aroma of seaweed filled my mouth. It's really delicious. Chin Mo's lips curled slightly at the corners. It might not have been a full smile, but it was enough to brighten his entire face. We continued studying through the afternoon, and it wasn't until the library's closing music played that I realized an entire day had passed. My notebook was filled with newly learned problem-solving techniques and knowledge points. My head felt slightly swollen from absorbing so much information, yet my heart was incredibly fulfilled. Coming again next Saturday? Chin Mo suddenly asked while packing his bag. I looked up and met his eyes, clear and calm behind his glasses, with no hint of joking. Yes, I answered without hesitation. 8 o'clock, same spot. He slung his backpack over his shoulder. Remember to bring your water bottle. There's hot water in the library. I nodded, watching his retreating figure, a smile unconsciously curling at the corner of my mouth. On the first weekend after my rebirth, I actually became study partners with Chin Mo. On Monday, I arrived at school and paid more attention in class than usual. With Chin Mo's notes and explanations, the previously vague knowledge points became clear. During breaks, instead of chatting with classmates, I seized the time to review the previous lesson or preview the next one. On Wednesday afternoon, during the physical education class, which was free time, most students went to play basketball or sat under the shade of trees chatting, but I sneaked back to the classroom, took out my physics problem book, and started doing exercises. I knew you'd be here, a voice came from the doorway. I looked up and saw class monitor Li Xiaoqing leaning against the doorframe, twirling a set of keys in her hand. The sports committee sent me to get the spare whistle. She walked in, glancing curiously at my exercise book. Working so hard, that's not like you. I smiled without answering. In my past life, Li Xiaoqing and I had an average relationship. She was the cheerful, outgoing type with lots of friends, while I only ever orbited around Lu Mingchuan. Did you know, Lu Mingchuan has been asking about you these past few days? Li Xiaoqing took the whistle out of the desk drawer, saying casually, he genuinely seems confused about why you suddenly stopped talking to him. I put down my pen and sighed. I just want to focus on studying, nothing more. Come on. Li Xiaoqing suddenly leaned in, lowering her voice. The whole class can tell something's going on between you and Chen Mo. Last Saturday, someone saw you two studying together in the library. That's headline news in our class. My face instantly grew hot. We were just reviewing together, that's all. Chen Mo never studies with anyone, Li Xiaoqing said meaningfully. Last year, Lu Ting, who ranked second in our grade, tried to ask him for help, and he just handed her a reference book and dismissed her. I didn't know how to respond, so I lowered my head and continued working on my problems. Li Xiaoqing didn't press further either, whistled, and left the classroom after school. As soon as I stepped out of the school gate, I heard someone calling my name from behind. Turning around, I saw Lu Mingchuan running toward me, his basketball jersey soaked with sweat, clearly just finished playing. Xiao Man, wait up, he panted as he stopped me. This Saturday, our class is playing against Class 7 in a basketball game. You'll come watch, right? I frowned. I told you I need to study, just 1 hour. Lu Mingchuan clasped his hands together in a pleading gesture. You know how important this match is. Those guys from Class 7 have always looked down on us. And this time, Lu Mingchuan, I interrupted him. I really don't have time. His expression instantly fell. Ever since Chen Mo appeared, you've become a different person. What's so great about him? Always keeping a straight face without saying a word, like some bookworm. Don't you dare say that about him. My voice suddenly rose, drawing glances from passing classmates. Chen Mo is 100 times better than you. At least he knows how to fight for his future instead of obsessing over how to please Su Yuan all day. Lu Mingchuan's face instantly turned deathly pale. You? How do you know Su Yuan? Only then did I realize I had let something slip. In my previous life, I had learned about Su Yuan when I helped deliver her love letter, but in this life, I shouldn't have known her at all. I heard it from a classmate. I quickly covered up. Anyway, I won't be going on Saturday. Find someone else to cheer you on. With that, I turned and walked away, my heart pounding in my chest. Behind me, Lu Mingchuan called out to me a few times, but I didn't look back. On Saturday morning, Chen Mo and I met at the library as planned to study. During the lunch break, I couldn't resist glancing at my phone and found the class group chat flooded with photos from the basketball game. Lu Mingchuan looked dashing on the court, and the pictures of Su Yuan and a few other girls cheering on the sidelines were particularly eye-catching. Distracted, Chen Mo suddenly said. I quickly locked my phone screen. Sorry. He slid over a draft paper with a complex physics problem written on it. Try this one. I recognized it is last year's college entrance exam's final question, notoriously difficult. Taking a deep breath, I focused and began solving it. When I finally found the breakthrough, I couldn't help but whisper a cheer of excitement. Looking up to meet Chen Mo's approving gaze, that sense of accomplishment felt more exhilarating than any cheers from a basketball game. Around 4 in the afternoon, my phone suddenly vibrated. It was a text from Li Xiaoqing. Lu Mingchuan got injured during the match. He's at the school infirmary and keeps asking to see you. I stared at the message for a long time, as memories from my past life flooded back like a tidal wave. Every time Lu Mingchuan got hurt or fell ill, I was always the first one by his side. I remember in our second year of high school when he had a high fever, I skipped class to take care of him at his house for the entire day, even copying all his homework for him. But after we got married, when I was in unbearable pain from my leg, he hung up on me because he was going shopping with Su Yuan. Something wrong? Chin Mo noticed my unusual behavior. I showed him the text message and said with a bitter smile. The old me would have rushed over immediately. He thought for a moment and suddenly asked, "Do you want to go now?" "No," I replied firmly. "He has so many friends, one more or less doesn't matter. Besides," I gestured toward the thick pile of review materials in front of me, "we have more important things to focus on." Chen Mo's lips curved slightly upward as he handed me a biology notebook. "Keep going." When I got home that evening, the class group chat was still buzzing with discussions about the day's competition. From my classmates' messages, I pieced together what had happened. Lu Mingchuan had sprained his ankle during the match. Su Yuan had barely helped him to the infirmary, but soon found an excuse to leave, leaving him alone. I heard he was in low spirits, repeatedly asking why no one had stayed with him. I closed the group chat without leaving a single comment. In a past life, I would have immediately called to comfort him, but now, I only feel it's a form of retribution, letting him taste what it's like to be unloved and unnoticed. On Monday at school, Lu Mingchuan's ankle was still wrapped in bandages. I deliberately avoided his gaze and walked straight to my seat. During the break, I noticed he tried to talk to me several times, but I pretended not to see him and avoided him. At lunch in the cafeteria, I was focused on eating when a tray suddenly appeared across from me. Looking up, I saw Chin Mo sitting down with a blank expression, and I nearly choked in surprise. "Is this seat taken?" he asked, even though there were clearly plenty of empty seats around. "No, no one." I quickly shook my head. We ate our meals in silence, neither of us speaking, but the quiet wasn't awkward. Occasionally our eyes would meet, and he would give a slight nod before continuing to eat. This simple, natural way of being together gave me an inexplicable sense of comfort. "Oh, since when did our ice-cold top student start eating with someone?" A teasing voice came from behind us. I turned around and saw Su Yuan standing there with her two friends, wearing smiles I couldn't quite decipher. Su Yuan was indeed beautiful, big eyes, a petite face, and long, silky black hair. She was the dream girl of many boys in school. "None of your business," I said coldly, even surprised at my own direct retort. In my previous life, I had always felt inferior in front of Su Yuan, too. Afraid to even speak, Su Yuan clearly hadn't expected such a response. After a brief pause, she forced a smile. "Lin Xiaoman, I heard you've been working really hard lately. Are you trying to surpass our Chin Mo, your family?" I raised an eyebrow, noticing that Chin Mo's brow had also furrowed. "Oh, just saying it casually." Su Yuan flipped her hair. "By the way, Lu Mingchuan asked me to tell you that he has something to say to you. He'll be waiting for you behind the gym after school." "No time," I flatly refused. Su Yuan pouted. "Suit yourself, but he's in a pretty bad state now, with his foot injured and no one to take care of him. He doesn't even have anyone to help copy his homework. Then you go take care of him." I put down my chopsticks. Su Yuan snorted disdainfully. "I don't have time for him. If it weren't for pity, I wouldn't even bother speaking for him." With that, she strode off with her girlfriends in tow. I turned to look at Chin Mo and found him staring at me with a complicated expression. "What's wrong?" I asked, feeling somewhat uneasy. "Nothing." He adjusted his glasses, "Just realizing you're not quite like the rumors say." "What am I like, according to the rumors?" I asked curiously. Chin Mo thought for a moment. "Quiet, introverted, always following Lu Mingchuan like his little tail." That description stung my heart. In my previous life, I was indeed like that, making Lu Mingchuan the center of my world and completely losing myself. "People change," I said softly. Chin Mo nodded and suddenly took out a piece of paper from his backpack, handing it to me. "The scope for next week's mock exam. I've highlighted the key points." I took the paper, feeling a surge of warmth in my heart after being reborn. It seems I've found someone who truly respects me, not those who treat me like a sticky note, but someone willing to walk alongside me after school. I deliberately took a longer route to avoid the gymnasium, only to be cornered by the limping Lu Mingchuan right at the school gate. "Why aren't you coming?" he demanded, his eyes bloodshot. "I've been waiting for you for an hour." I said I don't have time. I tried to get past him. He grabbed my wrist tightly. "Is it because of Chen Mo? You like him, don't you?" "Let go." I struggled free. "Who I like is none of your business." "How is this not my business?" Lu Mingchuan's voice trembled in a way I'd never heard before. "We grew up together. I thought we, what did you think?" I sneered. "That I'd always follow behind you, at your beck and call, do your homework, deliver love letters, do anything for you." He froze, his hand unconsciously loosening. I didn't mean it that way, Lu Mingchuan. I took a deep breath. From now on, please take responsibility for your own life. I won't waste another minute on you. After saying that, I turned and left, leaving him standing alone at the school gate, the setting sun stretching his shadow long and lonely. But I didn't look back. 1 week before the third mock exam, my nerves were as taut as a drawn bowstring. I slept only 4 hours a day, and the rest of the time was spent studying, eating, going to school, and studying. I could finish half a set of multiple-choice questions during the 10-minute break between classes, hide in a corner of the library to memorize English essay samples during lunch breaks, and even listen to recordings of key knowledge points while walking. On Wednesday evening, I was struggling with a difficult physics problem at my desk when the letters and numbers in front of me suddenly began to twist and blur. I blinked, and my vision refocused, but it became blurry again within less than a minute. My temples throbbed with pain, as if someone were drumming inside my head. Xiaoman, have some milk. Mom pushed the door open, placed a cup of warm milk beside me, and looked at me with concern. You look terrible. Thank you, Mom, I'm fine. I forced a smile, took the milk, and took a sip. The warm liquid slid down my throat, temporarily easing some discomfort. Mom reached out and touched my forehead. You've been studying all day, take a break. No, I shook my head. The third mock exam is next week. I must. My words stopped abruptly. The milk cup in front of me suddenly split into 2 images. My hand trembled uncontrollably, and the cup slipped from my fingers, crashing to the ground with a loud bang, spilling milk all over the floor. Xiaoman, Mom exclaimed in surprise, immediately crouching down to check if I was hurt. I wanted to say I was fine, but as soon as I opened my mouth, tears unexpectedly welled up. Then came the second drop, the third. Soon, I was wailing like a lost child, all the pent-up stress and fear bursting forth like a broken dam. I can't remember. So many formulas, so many key points. I sobbed, my vision blurred by tears. I'm scared, scared of failing the exam, scared of repeating past mistakes. Mom pulled me into her arms, gently patting my back. Silly child, it's just one exam. Do your best, that's all that matters. Don't put too much pressure on yourself. I leaned on my mother's shoulder and cried for a long time, until my tears ran dry, leaving only intermittent sobs. Mom cleaned up the spilled milk on the floor and insisted that I take a hot bath and go to bed early. Lying in bed, I stared at the ceiling as my emotions gradually settled. Suddenly, my phone vibrated. It was a text from Chen Mo. Don't come too early tomorrow morning. The library doesn't open until 8. I stared at the seemingly ordinary message for a long time before suddenly realizing he must have noticed I wasn't in a good state and was using this as a way to let me sleep a little longer. I replied with a simple okay, then buried my face in the pillow, my lips curling into an involuntary smile. The next day, I slept 2 hours longer than usual and felt noticeably better. When I arrived at the classroom, Chen Mo was already sitting at his desk reading. I put down my backpack, hesitated for a moment, then walked over to his desk. Thank you, I said quietly. He looked up at me briefly, nodded, then took out a folded piece of paper from his drawer and handed it to me. Take a look at this. I opened it and saw multiple solutions to a math problem, each written in extreme detail, with annotations explaining which method was suitable for which situation. If you feel nervous during the exam, stick to the most familiar method. Don't try new techniques. He said this without looking at me, his voice calm, yet it made my nose sting. I clutched the paper tightly. I will. On the day of the 3 model exam, the weather was unusually stifling. Sitting in the examination room, I was sweating palms and had to keep wiping my hands with tissues. The moment the test papers were handed out, I took a deep breath and forced myself to calm down. The first subject is Chinese, which is my strong point. The essay topic was choice, and I practically wrote the piece with memories and insights from a past life, the pen scratching against the paper as emotions poured out. For the subsequent math, English, and science sections, I tackled each question one by one, skipping the ones that stumped me and returning to them after completing all the ones I knew. Chen Mo's method worked wonders for me, not striving for perfection, just aiming for steady performance. When the final bell rang, I put down my pen and let out a long sigh. No matter the outcome, I had given it my all. 3 days later, the results were announced. I stood in front of the class ranking board, unable to believe my eyes. Lin Xiaoman, total score 689, third in the grade. My name was clearly listed after Chen Mo and Yang Yi. Having advanced more than 20 places from the last exam, oh my god, Lin Xiaoman, you're amazing. Li Xiaoqing patted my shoulder from behind. How did you suddenly do so well? Before I could answer, a crowd of classmates had already gathered around me, asking in a flurry how I had studied and whether I had any secrets. I stood there, flustered, when my gaze accidentally met Chen Mo, who was standing at the edge of the crowd. He gave me a slight nod, a barely noticeable curve at the corner of his mouth. I just did a few more questions, I mumbled in response to my classmates' questions, suddenly noticing Lu Mingchuan standing not far away, his face dark as he stared in our direction. His ranking had dropped to well over 250 in the grade, which in the fiercely competitive college entrance exam meant he might not even make it into a first-tier university. As the crowd gradually dispersed, Lu Mingchuan blocked my path. Xiaoman, congratulations, he forced a smile. I always knew you were smart, thanks. I responded briefly, ready to leave. Wait, he grabbed my wrist. I need to ask you for a favor. I pulled my hand back. What is it? My grades, you've seen them. He looked down at the ground, his foot nervously scuffing the floor. Could you help me with tutoring, like before? Indeed, in a past life, I often helped him with tutoring, even sacrificing my own study time to organize notes and explain his mistakes. And how did he repay me? After marriage, every time we argued, he would mock me. Do you think you're so great? If my parents hadn't forced me, would I have married a nerd like you? Sorry, I don't have time. I turned to leave. Just 1 week. No, 3 days would be fine. He hurriedly followed. For the sake of us growing up together, Lu Mingchuan. I stopped in my tracks and looked him straight in the eyes. Do you know why I ranked third? Because for the past month, I've studied until dawn every day, giving up all entertainment and socializing. Even considering talking to you a waste of time. Do you think I would ruin my own efforts just to help you? His face instantly turned crimson. How could you become so selfish? This isn't selfishness, it's self-respect, I said calmly. You don't study yourself, so what right do you have to demand others sacrifice for you? Without looking back, I walked away, my heart pounding violently in my chest, not from nervousness or fear, but from a sense of relief. I had finally said the words I couldn't utter in my past life. After school, as I was packing my bag to head to the library, an unexpected figure appeared at the classroom door. Su Yuan, Lin Xiaoman, can we talk for a moment? She asked, her voice surprisingly friendly, a stark contrast to our last encounter in the cafeteria. I eyed her warily. What is it? She walked in and took a seat in the front row next to me. First, I want to apologize for my attitude in the cafeteria last time. I was in a bad mood. I nodded without saying a word, waiting for her to continue. Secondly, Su Yuan bit her lower lip. I'd like to ask how you study. My grades have always been average, and seeing how quickly you've improved, I'm really impressed. I looked at her in surprise. In my past life, Su Yuan had been the proud schoolbelle in my memory, hardly speaking to anyone except Lu Mingchuan and his group of admirers, let alone asking for study advice. I just do more practice problems and summarize my mistakes, I answered cautiously. Could you elaborate on that? Su Yuan took out a small notebook, looking ready to take notes seriously. For example, time management, what reference books to use. Seeing the sincerity in her eyes, I let my guard down and briefly shared some study methods. During our conversation, I noticed that Su Yuan was actually quite intelligent. She grasped concepts quickly, but perhaps hadn't focused on studying before. You're really amazing, making such great progress in such a short time. I wish I were as smart as you. Su Yuan, you're amazing too. In my memory, Su Yuan was beautiful, graceful, and radiant wherever she went. By the way, Su Yuan suddenly asked at the end of their conversation, are you very close with Chen Mo? My heart tightened. It's fine, we just studied together a few times. He's my cousin, Su Yuan said with a smile. Although we have different last names, his father and my mother are siblings. I widened my eyes. What, he didn't tell you? Su Yuan also looked surprised. I thought you two were very close. We're just study partners, I said, trying to keep my voice steady, but my mind was in turmoil. Chen Mo and Su Yuan are cousins. Did Chen Mo know about Lu Mingchuan and Su Yuan in our past life? Did he know what happened to me? Although Chen Mo can be a bit annoying sometimes, he's actually a good person, just not very good at expressing himself. Su Yuan continued, he mentioned you a few days ago, saying you're quite special. My heart skipped a beat. What did he say about me? He said you're really dedicated to your studies and have a unique way of thinking, Soo-yuan said, winking. It's not easy to get that kind of praise from him. He rarely talks about anyone else. I didn't know how to respond, so I pretended to organize my school bag to hide the heat rising on my face. By the way, Soo-yuan stood up, preparing to leave. Lu Mingchuan has been pestering me lately, saying I need to take responsibility for him. It's so annoying. Do you know what's going on? My hands paused mid-motion. Take responsibility? It's about that time he hurt his foot, and I barely helped him to the infirmary. After that, he just stuck to me. Soo-yuan rolled her eyes, he said. That since I took care of him, I should keep taking care of him forever. It's completely ridiculous. I suddenly remembered that in my previous life, Lu Mingchuan and Soo-yuan had registered their marriage abroad. I'd always thought they were genuinely in love, but now, judging from Soo-yuan's tone, it seemed things weren't that simple. You don't like him? I asked tentatively. Lu Mingchuan, Soo-yuan sneered. Besides looking decent, what else does he have? His grades are average, he's mediocre at sports, and he always thinks he's so great. I'm planning to study abroad in the future. How could I possibly have anything to do with him? Her words struck me like a heavy hammer. If Soo-yuan didn't like Lu Mingchuan at all, why did they get married abroad in their previous life? Did Lu Mingchuan force her? Or did he deceive her? Lin Xiaoman, are you okay? Soo-yuan looked at me with concern. I'm fine. I forced a smile. Just a bit tired. Then you should rest early, Soo-yuan said sincerely. Thank you for sharing your study methods. They've been really helpful. Watching her retreating figure, my heart was filled with mixed emotions. In my past life, I had treated Soo-yuan as a romantic rival and hated her for many years, but now it seemed she might have been another one of Lu Mingchuan's victims. This realization dissipated most of my hostility towards Soo-yuan. On the weekend, Chen Mo and I studied at the library as usual. Several times I wanted to ask him about Soo-yuan, but I didn't know how to bring it up. It wasn't until our afternoon break that I finally couldn't hold back anymore. Chen Mo, Soo-yuan said you two are cousins. His hand paused on the page as he looked up at me. Why didn't you tell me? Did she tell you herself? Yeah, I was so surprised. I had no idea you guys were hiding it so well. Never found the right moment to mention it. He adjusted his glasses. Besides, Soo-yuan didn't really want people knowing about our relationship. Why? I was a bit curious. If I had a top student for an older brother, I'd probably announce it to the whole world. Because I'm a boy and my academic performance is pretty good. Chen Mo carefully chose his words, but I still understood. I thought about it and still asked another question that had been lingering in my mind then. Do you know that Lu Mingchuan likes Soo-yuan? Chen Mo's expression turned somewhat strange. I know, many people in the school know. Soo-yuan said she doesn't like Lu Mingchuan. She really doesn't. Chen Mo closed the book. She likes intelligent and ambitious people. Lu Mingchuan doesn't meet her standards. Thank you, Chen Mo. I suddenly expressed my gratitude sincerely. What for thanking me? Thank you for everything. I smiled. The notes, the study methods. Chen Mo's ears turned slightly red as he lowered his head to open the book. Let's keep studying. There's only 1 month left until the college entrance exams. I nodded and plunged back into the sea of questions, but my heart was calmer and more resolute than ever. The second week after the release of the third mock exam results, a subtle tension filled the classroom early Monday morning. During the break, I noticed several classmates frequently glancing at me and Chen Mo, then huddling together to whisper. Li Xiaoqing took advantage of Chen Mo's absence to sidle up to my desk with a mysterious air. Xiaoman, you two should be careful, she whispered, lowering her voice. Lu Mingchuan went to see Teacher Li after school yesterday, saying you and Chen Mo are in a puppy love that's affecting the class atmosphere. The pen in my hand nearly fell to the ground. What? He made it sound so convincing. Saying you two go to the library together every day and even have weekend dates alone. Li Xiaoqing pouted. Everyone knows he's just jealous because you did well on the exams and are close to Chen Mo. I clenched my fists, my nails digging deep into my palms. In my past life, Lu Mingchuan was just like this. Whenever he noticed any sign of me slipping from his control, he would do everything to sabotage it. I just never expected he'd resort to such childish tactics. Thanks for the heads up. I forced a smile at Li Xiaoqing, but we really are just studying together. Of course I know. Li Xiaoqing patted my shoulder, but Teacher Li might want to talk to you guys. It's better to be mentally prepared in advance. The class bell rang, and Teacher Li walked into the classroom holding a stack of test papers. I glanced sideways at Lu Mingchuan. He was sitting straight, a smug smile playing on his lips, occasionally glancing back at me with a challenging look in his eyes. Before I hand out the papers, I have a few things to say. Teacher Li set the papers down, her gaze sweeping across the classroom before settling on Lu Mingchuan. Recently, some students have reported to me that there's a case of early romance in our class. The classroom erupted in murmurs. I felt my face flush, while Chen Mo remained expressionless. Only pausing slightly with his pen in hand, I believe, Teacher Li continued, his voice calm and firm. During the final sprint stage of the college entrance exam, each student should focus most on their own studies, rather than meddling in others' normal social interactions. Lu Mingchuan's smile froze on his face. Instead of spending time watching others, some students should take a closer look at their own test papers, Teacher Li said, pulling a paper from the stack. For example, in this third mock exam, someone dropped from the top 100 in the grade to outside the top 200, yet still has time to worry about whether others go to the library. All the students turned their gazes toward Lu Mingchuan at once. His face instantly turned bright red, and the veins on his neck became clearly visible. Now handing out the papers, Teacher Li said no more, and began calling names. Chen Mo, 148 points, first in the grade. As Chen Mo stepped forward to collect his paper, Teacher Li patted his shoulder. Keep it up. Lin Xiaoman, 143 points, third in the grade. When I walked up to the podium, Teacher Li smiled at me gently. Great improvement. I took the paper, and the stone in my heart finally fell. As I walked back to my seat, I accidentally locked eyes with Lu Mingchuan, his gaze burning with anger and resentment, but I simply looked away calmly. When the class bell rang, students left the classroom in small groups for lunch. I deliberately took my time packing up, waiting until everyone had left before standing. Unexpectedly, Lu Mingchuan suddenly blocked my path at the hallway corner. Happy now, he said through gritted teeth. The whole class is laughing at me. You brought this on yourself, I replied coldly. Chen Mo and I are just study partners. What right did you have to slander us, study partner? Lu Mingchuan sneered. The whole class can see he likes you. So what? I met his gaze directly. Who I associate with is my freedom. It's not your place to interfere. He suddenly grabbed my wrist. Lin Xiaoman, you've changed. You never used to treat me like this before. Let go. I struggled free forcefully. Lu Mingchuan, wake up. I'm not that foolish girl who revolved around you anymore. I have my own life, my own goals, and you. I deliberately looked him up and down. You can't even pass a mock exam, yet you still have time to meddle in other people's affairs. His face turned deathly pale in an instant, as if someone had stabbed him in the chest. I turned and walked away, my heart pounding wildly in my chest, yet my steps were unusually firm. Turning the corner, I nearly bumped into someone. Chen Mo. He was leaning against the wall, holding 2 exercise books, clearly having heard the entire conversation just now. Sorry. I lowered my head awkwardly. No need to apologize. He handed me a workbook. Are you still going to the library this weekend? I looked up at him. Sunlight streamed through the corridor window, casting a bright outline around him. His expression remained calm, but his eyes sparkled with a warmth I had never seen before. Yes, I took the workbook, my lips curling into an involuntary smile. Of course I am. We walked side by side back to the classroom for evening self-study, neither of us mentioning what had just happened. Under the astonished gazes of our classmates, we confidently returned to our seats. Now, no one can stand in the way of my goal. 2 weeks before the college entrance exams, the air was thick with tension and anticipation. The classroom was no longer filled with idle chatter or playful banter. Even during breaks, the only sounds were the flipping of pages and the scratching of pens on paper. I buried myself in a sea of practice questions, solving 3 sets of past papers every day, compiling an error notebook, and memorizing key knowledge points. The notes Chen Mo gave me had become frayed from constant flipping, densely covered with my annotations. Lin Xiaoman, the homeroom teacher wants to see you in the office. Class monitor Li Xiaoqing called from the doorway. I put down my pen, rubbed my sore wrist, and headed to the teacher's office. Passing by the infirmary, I noticed the door was slightly ajar. Inside, I caught a glimpse of Lu Mingchuan sitting there while the school nurse measured his blood pressure. His face was pale, with heavy dark circles under his eyes, looking utterly exhausted. Since the release of the 3 model exam results, Lu Mingchuan's condition has been getting worse. I heard that. His parents were very dissatisfied with his grades and hired 3 tutors to take turns tutoring him, but with little effect. A few times when I was studying late in the library, I saw him running alone on the playground, desperately venting his emotions. Report, I gently knocked on the office door. Come in, Teacher Lee, the homeroom teacher, looked up and smiled when she saw me. Lin Xiaoman, sit down. I sat on the chair opposite her and noticed my college application form spread out on the desk, with the first choice clearly written as Clinical Medicine, Capital Medical University. I've already reviewed your application. Teacher Lee pushed her glasses up. You have great aspirations. With your current grades, as long as you perform normally, getting into Capital Medical University should not be a problem. I nodded, my heart racing. The dream from my past life finally had a chance to come true in this one. But, Teacher Lee changed the subject. I heard you've been studying very intensely lately. Some classmates mentioned you often stay in the library until closing time and are the first to arrive in the classroom in the morning. I pursed my lips. The college entrance exam is approaching, and I want to push myself a little harder. Hard work is good, but it should be moderate. Teacher Lee's voice softened. Health is the foundation of success. Especially since you want to study medicine, you should understand this principle better than anyone. I looked down at my hands, my knuckles slightly red from prolonged writing, my nails trimmed extremely short. I understand, teacher, I'll make sure to rest. By the way, Teacher Lee suddenly seemed to remember something. Lu Mingchuan's parents came to see me yesterday. They wanted to ask if you could tutor him. I know you two grew up together. I abruptly raised my head. Teacher, I refuse. Teacher Lee seemed surprised by my directness. His situation is indeed quite difficult. His grades have been declining continuously. Teacher, I took a deep breath. It's not that I'm unwilling to help classmates, but this is the final sprint phase. Every minute is precious. Lu Mingchuan has private tutors and parental support, while all I can rely on is myself. Teacher Lee looked at me for a long time before finally nodding. You're right. I didn't consider this thoroughly enough. Focus on preparing for the college entrance exams. I believe you can achieve excellent results. Leaving the office, I let out a long sigh of relief. In my past life, I would have agreed to such requests without hesitation, even feeling it was my duty. But now, I've finally learned to prioritize my own needs. On my way home from school, I was stopped by Lu Mingchuan's parents at the school gate. Xiaoman, I'm begging you. Lu Mingchuan's mother held my hand, her eyes reddening. Mingchuan's grades are barely enough for a second-tier college now. Please help him, for the sake of growing up together. I gently pulled my hand back. Auntie, I'm sorry, but I really don't have time. We can pay, Lu Mingchuan's father said urgently. 200 an hour, no, 300. I shook my head. It's not about the money. The college entrance exams are coming up, and I need to focus all my energy on preparing for them. How can you be so selfish? Mother Lu's voice suddenly turned sharp. Mingchuan has been so good to you, protecting you since you were little. Is this how you repay him now? I looked at her quietly, suddenly recalling what she had said to me in my previous life after my amputation when she visited me in the hospital. Xiaoman, don't worry, our Lu family will take responsibility. Mingchuan will take care of you for the rest of your life. At the time, I thought it was concern, only later did I realize it was just guilt and charity. After marriage, they allowed Lu Mingchuan to subject me to emotional abuse and even repeatedly urged me to become a surrogate mother. How laughable. Auntie, I said calmly, Lu Mingchuan has professional tutors, and I'm just a student. You should trust the professionals rather than pin your hopes on me. With that, I gave a slight bow and turned to leave, ignoring their shouts behind me. Only after turning the corner did I realize my hands were trembling, forcing me to stop and take several deep breaths to calm down. When I got home, Mom was in the kitchen preparing dinner. I set down my backpack and hesitated for a moment before telling her about my encounter with Lu Mingchuan's parents. Mom put down the kitchen knife and wiped her hands. They called me this afternoon too. What? I widened my eyes. Mom sighed. I turned them down directly. Your priority now is to focus on your exam preparation. How could you have time to tutor others? I walked over and hugged Mom. Thanks, silly child. Mom patted my back. I was wrong before, always asking you to take care of Mingchuan, thinking girls should be understanding and considerate. Now I understand, you must first take responsibility for your own life. My nose tingled with emotion as I buried my face in my mother's shoulder. In my past life, she had held me like this too, crying and saying I'm sorry after my amputation, but by then, it was already too late. After dinner, I received a call from Chen Mo, asking me to meet him on the school rooftop. It was the first time we weren't meeting at the library to study, and though puzzled, I arrived on time as agreed. On that early summer night, a gentle breeze swept across the rooftop, while the distant city lights twinkled like stars. Chen Mo leaned against the railing, gazing up at the night sky. "You're here," he said, turning to look at me upon hearing my footsteps. "Is something wrong?" I walked over to him and asked curiously. He handed me a bottle of warm milk. "Relax a bit, you've been too tense lately." I took the milk and sipped it slowly. The warm liquid slid down my throat, soothing the fatigue of the day. "Thanks," I smiled at him. "I am a bit tired, actually. Look." Chen Mo suddenly pointed at the sky, the Big Dipper. I followed his finger and saw 7 bright stars forming the shape of a ladle in the night sky. "Over there is Aquila." Chen Mo's voice sounded particularly gentle in the night. "The brightest one in the middle is Altair." I looked at him in surprise. "You study astronomy too?" "Just occasionally." He adjusted his glasses. "When I was little, my dad often took me stargazing. He said the universe is vast, and human worries are small." I looked up at the vast starry sky and suddenly felt my anxieties and pressures were indeed insignificant. No matter what the college entrance exam results might be, this wouldn't be the end of my life. "Chen Mo," I asked softly, "why do you want to study medicine?" He was silent for a moment. "My mom had congenital heart disease. She passed away last year. That's when I decided to become a cardiac surgeon." My heart tightened suddenly. "I'm sorry, I didn't know." "It's all right." He shook his head. "What about you? Why surgery?" I gazed at the distant lights as memories from my past life flooded in like a tide. "I once dreamed of losing both legs. I know that kind of despair and helplessness. If I could become a surgeon, perhaps I could help more people like me." This was the first time since my rebirth that I'd mentioned my past life to someone. Though using a dream as the pretext, the night concealed my slightly trembling hands. Chen Mo didn't press further, only giving a soft hum. We stood side by side, gazing at the starry sky, each lost in our own thoughts. A strange calm and unspoken understanding flowed between us. "Good luck on the college entrance exam," Chen Mo suddenly said as he was about to leave. I nodded. "You too." The days that followed felt like they were on fast forward. Every day was a cycle of solving problems, correcting mistakes, and reviewing. My notebook of errors grew thinner, while my confidence grew stronger. 3 days before the college entrance exam, the school gave us a break to study on our own. I was at home organizing the final key points when I suddenly received a call from Suyuan, Lin Xiaoman. Her voice was a bit hurried. "Lu Mingchuan just asked me if we could meet after school, saying he has something important to give me." I refused, but he seems determined to wait for me near my house. My heart sank. On this very day in my past life, it was when I delivered a love letter from Lu Mingchuan to Su Yuan and got into a car accident. "I might want to personally deliver the love letter to you." I struggled to keep my voice steady. "I'm so annoyed," Su Yuan complained. "I've already rejected him several times. By the way, my cousin said if you're free, let's go to the library together tomorrow for a final study session." "Okay," I agreed, but after hanging up the phone, I fell into deep thought. Lu Mingchuan is going to deliver the love letter in person. History seems to be repeating itself, only with the roles reversed. If he goes to deliver the love letter, will he get into a car accident like I did in my past life? Should I warn him? My finger hovered over Lu Mingchuan's name in the phone contacts, but I couldn't bring myself to tap it. The cruel words he said to me in my past life echoed in my ears. "You're just a cripple. How could you ever compare to Yuan? If you hadn't meddled and gotten into that accident while delivering the love letter, why would I have been forced to marry you?" I locked my phone screen and picked up my pen to continue studying. Everyone has the right to choose their own path and must take responsibility for their choices. This time, I choose to focus on my own future. The college entrance examination arrived as scheduled. Sitting in the examination hall, I felt surprisingly calm. Once the test papers were handed out, I focused entirely on answering the questions, losing track of time, forgetting everything around me, and even forgetting that I was a reincarnated individual at this moment. I was just an ordinary examinee, striving with all my might for my dreams. When the bell rang signaling the end of the final subject, I put down my pen and let out a long sigh of relief. It was over. No matter the outcome, I had given it my all. Stepping out of the exam hall, the sunlight was dazzlingly bright. Mom was waiting for me at the school gate, holding a bouquet of sunflowers. "Congratulations on my daughter's college entrance exam being Over, she hugged me, the scent of flowers lingering at the tip of my nose. Mom, did Lu Mingchuan take the college entrance exam? I hesitated for a moment before asking. Mom's expression turned complicated. He had an accident, got hit by a car the night before last, severe injury to his right leg. The surgery lasted several hours, though I had a premonition. Hearing the news firsthand still sent a shock through my heart. The gears of fate meshed with such precision, only this time, the wheel rolled over Lu Mingchuan instead of me. Is it serious? I asked softly. I heard they might have to amputate. Mom sighed. His parents are on the verge of collapse, he's their only son. I didn't say anything, just held my mother tightly. If I hadn't been reborn, it would have been my parents who were devastated now. After returning home, I locked myself in my room, lying on the bed staring at the ceiling. Logically, I should have felt the thrill of revenge, but strangely, I only felt a deep exhaustion and relief. Lu Mingchuan had already paid the price for his choice. And I could finally truly move forward. 3 days after the college entrance exams ended, my mother finally told me the details of Lu Mingchuan's post-surgery condition. They amputated his right lower leg, she said while cutting fruit. I heard the recovery isn't going well, there might be an infection. I put down the book in my hand. Shall we go take a look at him? Mom looked at me in surprise. You want to go? After all, we're neighbors and grew up together, I said calmly. Basic courtesy is still necessary. That afternoon, I went to the hospital with my parents. Lu Mingchuan's ward was filled with flowers and fruit baskets, but his parents looked like they had aged 10 years. Lu Mingchuan lay on the hospital bed, his right leg covered by a white blanket, clearly shorter by a section. Xiaoman. His eyes lit up when he saw me, then dimmed again. How did you do on the exam? Not bad, I replied briefly, placing the fruit I brought on the bedside table. How are you feeling? He let out a bitter smile. What can I say? I'm just a cripple now. Don't say that, interrupted Mother Lu, her eyes reddening. The doctor said you'll still be able to walk with a prosthetic limb. Lu Mingchuan didn't respond, just looked at me. You must have done really well on the exams, right? After all, you studied so hard. I didn't deny it. We'll know when the results come out. I didn't even get to take the college entrance exam. His voice choked up. My life is over. The atmosphere in the hospital room was heavy, suffocating. My parents and Lu Mingchuan's parents were exchanging pleasantries, while I stood aside, watching the once spirited young man now lying in bed, wallowing in self-pity. In my previous life, I had also experienced this kind of despair, but at least now I had a chance to start over. Why didn't you come see me before? Lu Mingchuan suddenly asked me in a low voice, taking advantage of a pause in the adults' conversation. The day I had the accident, I kept calling your name. I stared directly into his eyes. Lu Mingchuan, we're not friends anymore, remember? His face turned deathly pale. Just because I didn't let you hang out with Chen Mo, you're really that heartless? No, because you looked down on me, used me, but never truly respected me, I said calmly. Take good care of your injuries. I hope you recover soon. As I left the hospital, my mother looked at me with concern. Xiaoman, between you and Mingchuan, Mom, I interrupted her. I've long since been on different paths from him. My mother hesitated, then finally sighed and said nothing more. On the day the college entrance exam results were announced, I sat in front of the computer early, my finger hovering over the query button. My mom stood nervously behind me, while my dad pretended to calmly read the newspaper, but glanced at the computer screen every 3 seconds. Check it. Dad finally couldn't hold back and said. I took a deep breath and clicked the query button. The moment the page refreshed, my eyes immediately scanned to the total score, 708 points, ranked 66th in the province. Mom screamed and hugged me. My daughter is amazing. Dad threw down the newspaper and hugged us both tightly. Well done. Capital Medical University is a sure bet. I sat there, tears streaming uncontrollably down my face. 708 points. This was a score I wouldn't have dared to dream of in my past life. All the effort and perseverance since my rebirth had paid off at this moment. The days that followed were filled with joy and busyness, submitting college applications, preparing enrollment materials, receiving congratulations from family and friends. My phone was flooded with celebratory messages, and even distant relatives I hadn't spoken to in years called to offer their good wishes. Xiaoman, we're thinking of hosting an admission celebration banquet, Mom suggested during dinner one evening. We'll invite all our relatives and friends to celebrate. What do you think? All right, I agreed with a smile, but don't go overboard. how could we not make it grand? Mom's eyes sparkled. You're the only one in our neighborhood who got into Capital Medical University in years, and you ranked in the top 100 of the entire province. The celebration banquet is scheduled for the weekend at the hotel ballroom that day. I wore a simple white dress with my hair tied up in a high ponytail, neat and tidy. The banquet hall was packed with people, relatives, neighbors, teachers, classmates. Xiao Man, congratulations. Li Shaoqing walked in holding a bouquet of flowers. You and Chen Mo are the top performers in our class. This really brings honor to our class. I took the flowers and glanced around. Has Chen Mo arrived? Just saw him outside. Li Shaoqing winked. He seems to want to talk to you alone. My heart suddenly raced. I excused myself to go to the restroom and left the banquet hall. Chen Mo was indeed standing by the window in the corridor, sunlight streaming through the glass and casting a bright outline around him. Congratulations. He smiled slightly when he saw me. Capital Medical University is a sure bet. Yeah, I walked over to him. What about you? Decided on Capital University. He nodded. Better opportunities for studying abroad in the future. Impressive, I said sincerely. We were silent for a moment when he suddenly turned to face me. Lin Xiaoman, I have something to tell you. What? I looked up at him and noticed the tips of his ears turning slightly red. He took a deep breath. I like you, not as a study partner, but, Chen Mo, I gently interrupted him. We're still too young right now, with too little experience. It's easy to mistake friendship for love. His expression froze. Am I being rejected? It's not a rejection. I carefully chose my words. I just think we should focus on our studies first. Medical school is already so demanding. If our feelings remain the same in a few years, can we revisit this then? Actually, I'm not indifferent to Chen Mo, but the emotional trauma from my past life makes me hesitant to start a new relationship. I need time, space, and to become a better version of myself first. Chen Mo looked at me for a long time, then finally nodded. I understand, but I'll wait. My heart ached as he turned to leave, but I knew it was the right decision. Returning to the banquet hall, the joyful atmosphere immediately enveloped me. Classmates gathered around asking questions, and teachers took turns coming over to congratulate me. Amidst the laughter and chatter, I noticed a solitary figure in the corner, Lu Mingchuan. He sat in a wheelchair, the empty right leg of his trousers hanging limply. No one spoke to him, not even a glance was cast his way. In my past life, I would always rush to his side at such moments, terrified he might feel alone, but now, I choose to stay among the crowd, accepting the blessings and glory that belonged to me. As the banquet neared its end, Lu Mingchuan wheeled his chair to block my path. Are you satisfied? He asked hoarsely. Seeing me like this, are you happy? I looked at him calmly. I don't understand what you mean. You could have stopped me. His eyes were bloodshot. If you'd agreed to deliver that love letter for me earlier, none of this would have happened. My heart skipped a beat. Lu Mingchuan, you're still so selfish. I smirked disdainfully and turned to walk toward my waiting parents. Behind me, Lu Mingchuan's hysterical shouts were quickly drowned out by the banquet hall's music and laughter. Are you okay? Mom asked worriedly. What did he say? Nothing, I said, linking my arm with Mom's. Let's go home. Stepping out of the hotel, the summer night sky was exceptionally bright. I looked up to find the Big Dipper, remembering my rooftop conversation with Chen Mo. No matter what lies ahead, at least for now, my life is moving in the right direction. The admission letter from Capital Medical University arrived a week later, holding the weighty envelope. I gently traced the gilded school name with my fingers as tears blurred my vision. A dream that seemed unattainable in my past life has finally come true in this one. The ginkgo leaves at Capital Medical University have turned yellow and green, then green and yellow again. 10 years have passed in the blink of an eye. Standing before the surgical residency announcement board at the teaching hospital, I gently traced my fingers over the notice bearing my name and photo. Lin Xiaoman, orthopedic resident. Sunlight streamed through the corridor windows, casting its glow on the paper, as if shining directly into my heart. Dr. Lin, congratulations. Nurse manager Wang approached with a smile. I heard you turned down the offer from Johns Hopkins. That's an opportunity many people dream of. I smiled and tucked a loose strand of hair behind my ear. There's a greater need for good orthopedic surgeons in our country. Over the past 10 years, I've maintained a distant yet steady connection with Chen Mo. He completed a dual degree in medicine and biology at Capital University, and is now pursuing an MD PhD at Harvard. We occasionally exchange academic questions on WeChat, or recommend the latest medical papers to each other. Every time he returns to the country, we meet at a cafe near our alma mater and chat for several hours. Dr. Lin, the operating room 3 is ready. Intern Xiao Zhang poked his head in to inform me. I nodded and hurried toward the operating room. Today's surgery was a complex knee replacement, and the patient was a 70-year-old teacher, washing hands, disinfecting, putting on the surgical gown. This series of procedures had become as natural to me as breathing, under the shadowless lamp. The moment the scalpel cut through the skin, I still felt a sense of sacred mission every time I hold the knife. It is a redemption for the version of myself in a past life who lost both legs. The surgery lasted 3 hours and was completed successfully. Stepping out of the operating room, I removed my mask and let out a long sigh of relief. A nurse handed me my phone, which showed 3 missed calls, all from Chen Mo. I called back, and the phone was answered almost immediately. Xiaoman, Chen Mo's voice came through the line. I'm back in the country. Great, I'll treat you to a meal, I said, heading to the doctor's lounge to pour myself a glass of water. Do you know about Su Yuan and Lu Mingchuan? He paused. They got married. My hand trembled, and the cup nearly slipped from my grasp. What? It happened last year. Su Yuan was forced into it. The Lu family threatened to sue her for causing Lu Mingchuan's car accident if the Su family didn't take responsibility, and they made a scene outside their house every day. Chen Mo's voice carried suppressed anger. They're a bunch of scoundrels, using their money to harass and pressure. Su Yuan's parents were afraid, so they forced her to agree. I leaned against the wall, and Su Yuan's once vibrant face flashed before my eyes. The scene from my past life overlapped with the present, but the roles were completely reversed. How is she now? I asked softly. Not well at all, Chen Mo sighed. Lu Mingchuan's leg injury never fully healed, and he frequently needs surgery. He's become very irritable, and treats Su Yuan not very well. I only found out recently. My nails unconsciously dug into my palms. After hanging up, I stood by the window gazing at the distant city skyline. 10 years had passed. I thought I'd completely let go of the past, but hearing this news still sent a dull ache spreading through my chest, not for Lu Mingchuan, but for Su Yuan, the girl I once considered a love rival in my past life, only to realize in this life that she was also a victim. After work, instead of heading straight home, I drove to my alma mater high school. It was dismissal time on campus. Students in uniforms poured out of the teaching buildings, laughing and chatting, their youthful faces brimming with anticipation for the future. Standing by the playground, I caught a fleeting glimpse of my younger self, that foolish girl who used to run around for Lu Mingchuan. Xiaoman, is that really you? A familiar voice called out from behind. I turned around and saw my homeroom teacher, Miss Li. The wrinkles at the corners of her eyes had deepened, but her smile remained as warm as ever. Miss Li, I exclaimed in pleasant surprise as I hurried toward her. I heard you've become an orthopedic surgeon. I'm so proud of you. She took my hands and looked me up and down. That little girl who suddenly had her breakthrough moment in class has truly realized her dream. My nose tingled with emotion. It's all thanks to your encouragement. Come, let's sit in my office for a while, Teacher Li warmly invited. By the way, the school plans to invite several outstanding alumni to give lectures next month. Would you be interested? Following Teacher Li through the familiar hallway, my gaze involuntarily drifted toward our former senior year classroom. Through the window, I seemed to see Chen Mo's profile as he lowered his head to take notes, and Lu Mingchuan turning around to smile at me. Those memories had grown so distant, like someone else's story. Teacher Li's office walls were covered with graduation photos from over the years. I found our class photo, my fingers lightly tracing over those youthful faces. Lu Mingchuan stood in the last row, smiling brightly. Su Yuan was at the center of the front row, radiantly beautiful. Chen Mo was diagonally behind me, looking serious, and me, I could hardly recognize that shyly smiling girl anymore. Have you heard about Lu Mingchuan? Teacher Li handed me a cup of tea and suddenly asked. I nodded. Just heard he got married. That kid has changed a lot. Teacher Li sighed. After the car accident, he became a completely different person. He came to last year's class reunion in a wheelchair, ordering Su Yuan around. It was truly heartbreaking to see. Who do you feel sorry for? I asked softly. Everyone, Teacher Li replied with sorrowful eyes fixed on me. That girl Su Yuan, she used to be so proud, but now all her spark has been worn away, and Lu Mingchuan too. From a sunny young man to this state, I lowered my head to look at my reflection in the teacup and remained silent. Hadn't I been the same in my past life, from an ambitious high school student to a resentful woman trapped in a wheelchair and a failed marriage? But seeing you like this now truly makes me happy, teacher. Teacher Lee patted my hand and said, "You've proven that no matter what happens, people can always choose to stand up and keep moving forward." When I left the school, the sunset had already sunk below the horizon. Standing at the school gate, I took one last look at the building that held so many memories. No matter what lies ahead, at least now I'm no longer that pitiful pushover. My phone rang again. It was the emergency department's number from the hospital. "Dr. Lin, we need your consultation on a complicated case," the on-duty doctor said urgently. "The patient's right leg has a severe infection from an old injury, accompanied by osteomyelitis. Emergency surgery might be necessary." "I'll be right back," I said, quickly heading toward the parking lot back at the hospital. I rushed straight to the consultation room. Through the glass window, I saw several doctors already gathered inside. The patient was sitting on the bed with his back to the door, but I recognized that figure instantly. No matter how many years had passed, I would never mistake it. Lu Mingchuan. My hand paused on the doorknob for a second before I pushed the door open. "Dr. Lin is here." Chief Physician Professor Wang greeted me. "This patient had his right lower leg amputated 10 years ago, and the residual limb has been repeatedly infected over the past 6 months. Multiple surgeries at other hospitals have shown poor results. Considering your expertise in complex bone trauma and infections, we'd like to hear your opinion." I walked to the bedside and finally got a clear look at Lu Mingchuan's face. He was much thinner than I remembered, with heavy dark circles under his eyes, downturned lips, and an overall gloomy aura. The moment he saw me, his eyes widened instantly, and his lips trembled as if he wanted to speak but couldn't. "Let me see the medical records," I said calmly, taking the folder handed by the resident and flipping through it. "Professionally, Lin Xiaoman." Lu Mingchuan finally found his voice. "You became a doctor." Dr. Lin is the youngest attending orthopedic surgeon at our hospital, Professor Wang introduced proudly. I pretended not to notice Lu Mingchuan's shocked expression and focused on the medical records. The situation was indeed complicated: multiple failed surgeries, drug-resistant bacterial infection, necrotic tissue at the residual limb. The slightest misstep could necessitate a second amputation or even be life-threatening. Immediate surgical debridement is needed, combined with sensitive antibiotics. I closed the medical record. "If the infection control isn't effective, we may need to consider a higher-level amputation." "No." Lu Mingchuan suddenly became agitated. "No more amputations. I've already. His voice choked up, his eyes frantically searching for something. Just then, the consultation room door swung open, and a haggard woman hurried in, clutching a stack of payment slips. It was Su Yuan. I hardly recognized her. Her once long, dark, and lustrous hair had been cut into a dry, short style. Her eyes had lost their sparkle, her mouth drooped, and she looked as if all her vitality had been drained away. When she saw me, she clearly paused for a moment, then lowered her head and silently stood beside Lu Mingchuan. "This is the patient's family member," the resident doctor introduced. "My wife," Lu Mingchuan emphasized, while looking at me with a strange expression. Partly challenging, partly expectant, I nodded and turned professionally to Su Yuan. "The patient's condition is quite serious and requires immediate surgery. As the family member, please sign the surgical consent form." Su Yuan took the document, her fingers trembling slightly. She glanced up at me, a flicker of complex emotion in her eyes, then silently signed her name. "The surgery is scheduled for the first slot tomorrow morning," I told the team. "Administer stronger antibiotics tonight and monitor temperature and blood counts closely." After the consultation ended, I walked briskly toward my office, my heart pounding violently in my chest. 10 years have passed, and I never imagined we'd reunite like this. Even more unexpected was that seeing Lu Mingchuan and Su Yuan in their current state brought me no satisfaction, only a profound sorrow. "Dr. Lin," a voice called out to me. Turning around, I saw Su Yuan catching up, breathless. "Is something wrong?" I stopped in my tracks. She bit her lip, seemingly struggling with what to say. Finally, she whispered softly, "Please, take good care of him during the surgery. Although but after all, he is." "Su Yuan," I interrupted her, "I'm a doctor. No matter who the patient is, I will do my best to treat them. That's my professional ethics." She looked up, tears welling in her eyes. "Thank you, and I'm sorry, why are you apologizing? For everything. Her voice was so soft it was almost inaudible. I don't know, maybe. It's my punishment. I took a deep breath. That's not your fault. I looked at the poor girl in front of me, who had been emotionally manipulated by Lu Mingchuan for most of her life. She looked at me in surprise, as if she hadn't expected me to say that. Go back and rest. I handed her a tissue. The surgery tomorrow will be long. As I turned to leave, something suddenly occurred to me, and I turned back to ask, does Chen Mo know you're in the hospital? She shook her head. Don't tell him. I don't want him to worry. That night, I tossed and turned in the hospital duty room. At 3 in the morning, I got up to check on Lu Mingchuan in the ward. He was half sitting on the bed, staring blankly at the night outside the window. When he saw me come in, his eyes lit up. Xiaoman, I knew you'd come. Routine rounds, I said calmly, checking his foreign vital signs. Did you know? His voice was hoarse. I've thought of you every single day for the past 10 years, regretting not cherishing you back then. My hand paused for a moment before I continued recording the data on the monitor. Seeing how great you've become now, I'm truly happy for you. He reached out to take my hand, but I swiftly dodged. Please remain emotionally stable. It's crucial for the surgery, I said matter-of-factly. Don't be like this. His voice carried a plea. I know you hate me, but I truly realize my mistake. Marrying Su Yuan was forced by my parents. I never loved her at all. I looked up at him, suddenly feeling utterly absurd. It was like a repeat of what he had said to Su Yuan in a previous life, only the roles had been reversed. You know, I said softly, I once had an amputation. He froze. What? In another time, another life? I calmly gazed into his eyes. I was in a car accident trying to deliver a love letter to Su Yuan, resulting in the amputation of my right leg and missing the college entrance exam. Your parents, overcome with guilt, forced you to marry me, but you hated me with a deep hatred, eventually leaving me and Su Yuan to go abroad. His face turned deathly pale. What are you talking about? You know what I'm talking about. I took out my phone and quietly pressed the record button. Lu Mingchuan, no matter which timeline we're in, you always shift the blame onto others. Do you really have no fault at all? His breathing became rapid. I didn't. It was clearly you who insisted on sending that love letter to Su Yuan. Why won't you admit it now? Yes, I was infatuated back then, but now I realize it's you I love. Now it's your turn to taste that feeling. I stepped closer, trapped in a broken body, dependent on someone who doesn't love you, living every day in regret. How does it feel, Xiaoman? Tears welled up in his eyes. I beg you, forgive me, give me a chance. I'll divorce Su Yuan. I will provide you with the best medical care. I took a step back, because it is my professional duty, but beyond that, there is no longer any relationship between us. With that, I turned and left, hearing his muffled sobs as the door closed behind me. In the hallway, I stopped and saved the recording I had just made, then sent it to Su Yuan with a message. You deserve to know the truth, and you deserve a better life. On the day of the surgery, I arrived at the hospital an hour early. In front of the mirror in the restroom, I carefully washed and scrubbed my hands, mechanically repeating actions I had performed hundreds of times before. The cold water washed over my arms, washing away the last traces of hesitation and doubt. Today, I was not Lin Xiaoman, but Dr. Lin, a professional orthopedic surgeon. The operating room is ready. The anesthesiologist, scrub nurse, and circulating nurse are all in position. Under the shadowless lamp, Lu Mingchuan lies quietly on the operating table, already under anesthesia. Let the surgery begin, I announce, reaching out to take the scalpel handed to me by the nurse. The moment the blade cuts through the skin, my world narrows down to just this surgical field of view. Infected tissue, damaged bones, residual sutures, all the issues are laid bare before my eyes. A decade of medical training combined with personal experience from a past life has given me an extraordinary understanding of such trauma. Electrosurgical knife. I reached out, and the scrub nurse precisely handed the instrument into my hand. The surgery lasted 6 hours. We completely removed the infected necrotic tissue, repaired the damaged bone structure, and preserved the residual limb length as much as possible. By the time the final stitch was completed, my surgical gown was soaked with sweat. The surgery went well, I announced, straightening up wearily but satisfied. Send her to the recovery room, closely monitor vital signs. Walking out of the operating room, I collided head-on with Su Yuan, who had been anxiously waiting. She looked like she hadn't slept all night, her eyes red and puffy. clutching a crumpled tissue in her hand. How did it go? She asked eagerly. The surgery was successful. I removed my mask, the source of infection has been cleared, and the limb was saved, but long-term rehabilitation will still be needed. Her shoulders slumped all at once, as if she had finally unburdened herself. Thank you, really, thank you so much. Don't thank me. I rubbed my tired brow. It's my job. After hesitating for a moment, I finally asked the question. The recording, have you listened to it? Soo-yuan nodded, a flicker of pain flashing in her eyes. I have, actually. I didn't even need to listen. Ever since we got married, he often calls out your name in his sleep, then scolds me for not being you. My heart felt as if pricked by a needle. Soo-yuan, you don't have to live like this. I know. She forced a bitter smile. But my parents are afraid of retaliation from the Liu family. I don't know what to do. Does Chen Mo know about your situation? She shook her head. I don't want him to worry. He's already busy enough being alone abroad. Idiot. I couldn't help but say, family is exactly what you rely on during times like this. Chen Mo would be truly heartbroken if he knew you were suffering like this without telling him. Soo-yuan's tears finally fell. I really can't go on anymore. I took her to the doctor's lounge and poured her a cup of hot water. She haltingly recounted her experiences over the past decade, being forced into marriage, giving up the opportunity to study abroad, caring day and night for the moody Lu Mingchuan, and enduring the harsh words of Lu's parents. They think I'm the one who ruined Lu Mingchuan. Soo-yuan wiped her tears, saying if I hadn't rejected his love letter that night, he wouldn't have gotten into the car accident. That wasn't your fault, I said firmly. Everyone must take responsibility for their own choices. Lu Mingchuan chose to speed on that rainy day, and the consequences should naturally fall on him alone. Yuan looked up at me, a glimmer of hope flashing in her eyes. You really think so? Of course. I held her cold hand. Soo-yuan, you're only 28. There's still a long life ahead of you. Don't follow in someone else's footsteps. I want a divorce. Soo-yuan suddenly said, her voice soft but firm. But the Liu family won't agree. They said if I dare to divorce, they'll make sure my parents can't stay in this city. I thought for a moment, then an idea struck me. What if there's evidence proving Lu Mingchuan has been mentally abusing you, like a recording? Soo-yuan's eyes lit up. You mean, I sent you the recording yesterday, and combined with his verbal abuse towards you, it's enough to file for a protective order and divorce? I said. I can help you contact a lawyer, and Chen Mo will definitely support you. Xiao Man. Soo-yuan's tears welled up again. Why are you helping me? Because we're all victims, I said softly, and besides, doctors are compassionate by nature. 3 days later, Lu Mingchuan fully regained consciousness from the anesthesia. When I went to make rounds, he was half sitting on the bed, gazing at the sunlight outside the window with a complex expression. Soo-yuan isn't in the ward. She's already taken the recording I provided and the documents prepared by the lawyer to file for divorce. The surgery was successful. I examined his wound. If he recovers well, he can get a new prosthetic in 2 months. Lu Mingchuan turned to look at me, his eyes showing a vulnerability and confusion I had never seen before. Soo-yuan has left. I didn't stop what I was doing. She said she wants a divorce. His voice trembled. She said she'll never come back. I didn't respond, continuing to record his vital signs. Xiao Man, he suddenly grabbed my wrist. I really have nothing left now. Please, give me one more chance, okay? I swear I'll. Lu Mingchuan. I calmly pulled my hand back. Have I ever told you how you treated me in another timeline? When I needed you most, you chose someone else. His face instantly drained of color. Now you understand the pain I felt back then. I looked straight into his eyes. But that doesn't mean I'll repeat your mistakes. I have my own life, my career, my people who matter to me. Chen Mo. He let out a bitter laugh. I knew it was him. That's none of your concern. I closed the medical record. Get some rest. Rehabilitation starts tomorrow. Stepping out of the hospital room, I let out a long sigh, as if a burden I'd carried for years had finally been lifted. The thrill of revenge. No, all I felt was a profound sense of relief. Everything from my past life had finally come to a close at this moment. My phone vibrated. It was a message from Chen Mo. Soo-yuan has told me everything. Thank you for your help. When are you free? I'd like to meet you, I replied. Let's wait until Lu Mingchuan is discharged from the hospital. I want to focus on completing this treatment. A month later, Lu Mingchuan's wound healed well, and he was ready to be transferred to a rehabilitation center. the divorce proceedings had also been initiated, and Su Yuan remained temporarily in the United States, preparing to reapply for her suspended studies. On the day Lu Mingchuan was discharged from the hospital, his parents came to pick him up. When Lu's mother saw me, a flicker of embarrassment and shame passed through her eyes. Lin, she hesitated. Thank you for healing my son. In the past, I shook my head. I just did what a doctor should do. As I turned to leave, I heard a clattering sound of objects fall into the ground. Lu Mingchuan called my name from behind, but I didn't turn back. 2 weeks after Lu Mingchuan was discharged from the hospital, I met Chen Mo at a cafe near our alma mater. 10 years had passed, and Chen Mo's demeanor had become even more composed, with a touch of the resolute maturity unique to grown men. He wore a simple white shirt and dark trousers, and his eyes, behind gold-rimmed glasses, lit up when he saw me. Shaman, he stood up and pulled out a chair for me. You've lost weight, it's a surgeon's routine, I said with a smile as I sat down. How's Su Yuan? Much better. Chen Mo pushed over a latte I had already ordered. She's preparing to reapply for the PhD program at MIT. The divorce proceedings went smoothly. After seeing those recordings, the Lu family dared not pursue it anymore. I nodded, took a small sip of coffee, and let the warm liquid slide down my throat. Thank you, Chen Mo suddenly said. If it weren't for you, Su Yuan might have been trapped in that marriage for the rest of her life. I just did what I should do. I put down the cup. By the way, how's your research at Harvard going? Chen Mo's eyes instantly lit up as he began to enthusiastically elaborate on his project, the application of gene editing technology in bone regeneration. As I listened, I couldn't help but smile. He was still the same Chen Mo who couldn't stop talking about medicine, only now he was more confident and passionate. Actually, he suddenly changed the subject. Aside from dealing with Su Yuan's matter, there's another reason I came back this time. What? I asked curiously. He took out a small box from his pocket and pushed it toward me. My heart suddenly raced, and my fingers trembled slightly as I opened the box. Inside wasn't a ring, but a uniquely designed badge engraved with the words Harvard MIT Health Sciences and Technology Joint Program. I want to invite you to join my research team. Chen Mo's voice was calm, but his eyes burned with intensity. Combining your clinical experience with my foundational research, we could make groundbreaking work in the field of bone regeneration. I picked up the badge, and sunlight streaming through the window refracted into a rainbow of colors on its surface. Is this a job offer? Not just that. Chen Mo took a deep breath. It's also the beginning of me wanting to pursue you again. 10 years ago, you said we were still too young. Now, I think we've both matured enough to know what we truly want. I looked at the man who had accompanied me through the most important years of my rebirth, feeling a surge of warmth in my chest. In my past life, I had never experienced healthy love. But in this life, Chen Mo, in his own way, taught me the meaning of respect, understanding, and support. I need some time to think, I finally said. My work is here, my patients need me. Of course. Chen Mo nodded. Whatever decision you make, I'll support you. When we left the cafe, the setting sun stretched our shadows long across the ground. Chen Mo's hand occasionally brushed against mine, warm and steady. Oh, he suddenly remembered. Next month is the school anniversary. Teacher Lee invited us back to give a speech. Are you going? Yes, I answered without hesitation. I want to tell those kids that no matter what happens, life always offers second chances. A year later, Chen Mo and I held a simple wedding in the United States. The night before the wedding, I received a text message from an unknown number. Congratulations, I owe you an apology, and I also owe you a thank you. Lu Mingchuan. I didn't reply, just silently deleted the message. According to Su Yuan, Lu Mingchuan's father had passed away recently, and in order to support the family, Lu Mingchuan had left the rehabilitation center early. I don't know what kind of job he's doing now, but I no longer care. Whether he's doing well or poorly now has nothing to do with me. Everything is just what he deserved. At the wedding, when Chen Mo slipped a specially crafted ring onto my finger, its inner band engraved with the words to heal, to love, to grow, I looked up at this man who was about to become my husband, my heart filled with serene joy. Instead of exchanging expensive diamond rings, we chose these unique surgical steel bands, symbolizing both our professions and the strong, pure bond between us. 5 years later, on our alma mater's anniversary, Chen Mo and I returned to give a speech with our 3-year-old twins in tow. The 2 children sat in the front row, curiously looking around. while Chen Mo and I stood at the podium, sharing our story. The most wonderful thing about life is, I looked at the young faces in the audience and smiled gently. It's always full of infinite possibilities. No matter what setbacks you face, remember, the sun will rise again tomorrow, and you will always have the chance to start anew. After the speech, a limping figure quietly left from the back of the hall. I didn't follow, nor did I linger my gaze. On the way home, Chen Mo held a child in one arm, and I walked beside him. The setting sun stretched the shadows of the four of us long and merged them together, pointing toward the distance. After hearing this story, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. We look forward to hearing from you.